This episode is sponsored by Matt Herbert. Hello and welcome back to Film Pro Productivity and Success, the podcast that helps film professionals and other creative people, all creative people I like to say, to live a more focused, effective and happy life. My name is Carter Ferguson and this is episode 129. Even more toxic archetypes. Negative people are worse than negative occurrences. The argument is over in 10 minutes. The person may hang around for years. Jeffrey Gitomer, unquote. This show is going out on Christmas Day, so if you're happening to be listening today, Merry Christmas to you. I hope you're having a very splendid holiday season. I myself am actually recording this in October though, as I'm trying to batch record myself a couple of months off of work so that I can concentrate on my own projects during that time. So I'm not quite there yet, but I'm looking forward to it myself. In last week's show, I tried to do a quick off-the-cuff episode about social media, but of course it ran to something like 35 minutes long, as when all was said and done, I really did have quite a lot to say on the subject, and if you missed it, please go back and check it out. But today, though, this is not a special by any means, just because it's Christmas Day that it's going out, but I am going to cover a topic which is particularly popular on this podcast, and it's 3 more toxic personality types for you to keep an eye out for. And without further ado, let's get into it. My whole thing is haters are going to hate, but haters are also going to click your YouTube video just to watch it, so I don't really care. You helped me break the record, even if you were watching it just to hate me. And now I hold the record, so I win. Miley Cyrus, unquote. The last time I tackled archetypes, toxic archetypes, I talked about one called the critic. Have you ever felt judged and criticised no matter what you do? If your answer is yes, then you have been in the presence of a critic. Negative criticism is different from advice, and that has to be recognised as having a relentless critic in your life will introduce a lot of unnecessary toxicity into it. But what I want to highlight today is a variant of that. The critic becomes the hater when they actively try to destroy your reputation. And these critics go further than just saying negative things about your work one-on-one. They want to ensure that what they say is heard on social networks and in the comments section of your postings. And filmmakers listening here may very well have faced haters themselves as they release their creative works onto YouTube or at festivals or whatever. And I know more than one local filmmaker to me here in Glasgow who have been relentlessly bullied for their work when they have done nothing less than the best that they could do, and they've put their creation out into the world in the name of entertainment. And I've had it myself when my feature was released as well. The audiences absolutely loved Fast Romance, but every amateur critic with a blog that had been given a press pass at the EIFF way back in 2011 really went out of their way to knock it. We were the underdog. We were the very extremely ultra low budget feature of that particular Edinburgh International Film Festival. Rest in peace, I hasten to add. That festival has collapsed. I don't know if you're aware of it, but that's a very sad state of affairs because they were a tremendous supporter of local filmmakers and of myself, and I can't say that about any other festival that I've been involved with. But I'm going off on one already. As I was saying, the audiences loved it, but the critics just went out of their way to knock it. The audience, as I say though, they didn't just love it, they really loved it. The run of the film was extended both at Cineworld, where it was playing Scotland-wide, and at the Edinburgh International Film Festival, when we launched with a very rare additional screening that was added to their schedule. And we also won the BAFTA Scotland Cineworld Award. But if truth be told, I've got to be honest, I got the impression that BAFTA fucking hated us too and was absolutely horrified when the audience vote came in. But we did win it. We won it fair and square. And, you know, the audience really got behind us, and I'm eternally thankful to that audience for doing so. StopBullying.gov says that haters pick on people whom they perceive as being different from themselves. Being the focus of negative and critical comments can be upsetting and trigger feelings of anger, hurt and confusion, and cause the person being criticised to question their self-worth and behaviour. If the negative comments are posted online, it can also make someone afraid to use their social media accounts or feel ashamed of what is happening there." Unquote. Haters, critics, and naysayers. Anyone on the path to success has them and must learn to stay motivated despite the criticism or discouragement. The oracles. That's from Forbes magazine. And Forbes magazine gives these pieces of advice when dealing with haters. 1. Make criticism your fuel, not your kryptonite. And I do this. I certainly do this. I use it as fuel to fire my drive. Unfortunately, however, I really took a knock after my first film was released, my first feature. I'm saying my first feature because I do intend somewhere down the line to make one. Although I heard a terrible statistic on, I think it was a filmmakers podcast the other day, and it was that 90% of filmmakers will never make a second feature because their experience on the first one has been so horrific. And I can honestly say I 100% agree with that. It was a really horrific experience from the haters that came out. Anyway, that's number 1. Make criticism your fuel, not your kryptonite. Number 2, take it as a compliment. Criticism, if nothing else, is proof that you're bound to be wildly successful. And number 3, remember that successful people don't need to put others down. And if you're dealing with a hater, they just don't have what you have, but they want it. Number 4, stick to your convictions. History is filled with examples of technological breakthroughs that were once met with resistance. When you begin to disrupt an industry, dissenters will gather. People are naturally skeptical of change and reluctant to accept things they don't understand, so don't let that sway you. And I give the same advice for this archetype that I give for all the others, and for trolls as it happens on social media too, if you listen to last week's show. Don't give the haters the air to fan the flames of their hate and disrespect. Starve them of the oxygen of your responses and let their petty critical fires fizzle out instead. Watch out for those types who deliberately tear other people down. One day, they will tear you down too. Nurjean Chaneco, unquote. Now, I've probably tortured that name. I'm becoming infamous for not being able to pronounce people's names. But wherever you are in the world, I'll give it an attempt, even if I've never heard that name before. I'm right there with you. Now, next up, I want to highlight gossip mongers. And if you gossip to me, chances are you're gossiping about me. So when someone gossips to you, especially when they say, "I'm telling you this because I trust you," don't tell anyone or don't say anything to this other person. Don't ignore that red flag that might pop up, and when you're getting the vibe that something feels wrong. If this is a rare conversation with that person, it might not be gossip so much as helpful advice or information, but sometimes it's very difficult to tell the difference. However, if this person continually entrusts you with gossip, in inverted commas, about other people, chances are you are being snared by a gossiper. And gossipers are super interested in other people's personal information about their misfortunes and their failures, and they love to spread this kind of, in inverted commas, I say again, news to them everywhere, even if it's got no basis in fact. They see having a deep conversation about someone as an exchange of information. The things most people want to know about are usually none of their business. George Bernard Shaw, unquote. People gossip to elevate themselves above their insecurity, but there's no distinction between speculation and fact. Few things are more destructive than gossip, and no matter how you look at it, spreading malicious rumours will not only hurt the subject of the gossip, it makes the gossiper look bad too. And here are some tips about dealing with gossip from SusanFitzel.com. She says, don't take gossip personally. That's often difficult to do, however. Often it's not about you, it's about the gossiper. And ask yourself, are you sure it's true? If you didn't see it, hear it, or experience it firsthand, you don't know if it's true. Even then, we may interpret what we hear or see differently, and our interpretation could be wrong. Even if it is true, do you need to repeat it? Is it helping anyone to repeat the gossip? If possible, stop the gossiper in his or her tracks, call them on it and walk away, because if they don't have someone to listen, there is no reward in gossiping. Another tip is to act bored. Gossips want you to be interested, and your reaction fuels their power. Don't participate in spreading the gossip. It can come back to haunt you. If someone shares gossip with you, others may hound you for more details. Curiosity gets the best of people. Don't share what you've heard. Keep it to yourself. Keep your personal and professional information private. This is challenging for outgoing, talkative personalities, however, even more necessary. If the gossiper has no information, they don't have anything to gossip about. Be careful what you share online. So much drama starts online in social networking, text messages, and for older generations in email. So often what is written can be read many different ways and consequently misinterpreted. If online gossip is blatant, ignore it or call the person out. Gossip on the internet is there forever and can have devastating consequences. And I try to remove myself from circles of gossip, but sometimes I find myself caught in one of them as an unwilling invitee. And in that circumstance, I quickly try to extricate myself from the situation as I don't like it. And the only good thing I'd add about the gossip archetype probably is that they're easy to spot. So be vigilant and ensure that you don't get sucked in by them. And remember the old adage, believe nothing of what you hear and only half of what you see. Justice means minding one's own business and not meddling with other man's concerns. Plato, unquote. I was going to drop narcissists in here, but let's face it, that needs an episode of its own. So instead, I'm going to finish with a quick rundown on meddlers. Meddlers are people who get involved in the affairs of other people or insert their opinion where it doesn't belong. In that respect, they're not really that far off from gossips, because people like to meddle, find stuff out, and then spread that information as well. And I've known all too many of these sorts of people over the years, and I really put effort into not being one myself, as I really dislike them. One big lesson I've learned over the years is that sometimes it's okay. In fact, not just okay, sometimes it's vital to say nothing at all, and I'm totally good with that. Busybodies or meddlers are very common, and their common characteristic is that they think they always know best and that everything is their business. For example, an intrusive parent might be meddling in your marriage by taking sides or giving unsolicited advice. Or a colleague that you share a creative idea with may try to hijack that idea or give you their opinion on what you need to do with it. And I talk about this in my Hijackers episode. One thing that really gets my goat is when the meddler starts using terminology like, yeah, we should do this with it, or we should do that with it. And it's really, really a bad thing. It's like hijacking your conversation, hijacking your idea, an idea that's yours, that's not fully thought out, that someone's inviting themselves into it. Really, really aggravates me. I cannot stress this enough, because the thing is, it's not good for creative people to be short-circuited in this way. And I do try to aim this show at creatives, so bear that one in mind. Don't let someone hijack your idea. Don't let them meddle with your thoughts before they're fully thought out either. And what makes meddling so toxic is that they don't respect or even see boundaries. In other words, they can't tell where they end, their thoughts end, and another person begins. Sometimes when you want to make a difference in a person's life, stay out of it. Dane Cook, unquote. So if you've got someone who constantly inserts their opinion where it doesn't belong, you need to pull them up for it and put an end to it. As creatives, you should be in a position where you can ask for an opinion, but have the absolute right to ignore it. Don't let yourself be influenced by a meddler, as you will never get rid of them. And after the fact, somewhere down the line, they'll likely claim that whatever it is you've been working on was all their idea anyway. So that's it for today. The hater, the gossip, and the meddler. If you have one or more of these toxic archetypes in your life, your call to action this week is to phase them out. That's all. Rather than doing a New Year special next week, I'm just going to be doing another standard show, and it's going to be about prosperity consciousness. That's in effect, the law of attraction. It'll be called something like hard work versus the law of attraction. I'm not quite sure. I've not recorded it yet. But I'm not for it or against it. Well, maybe I'm a little bit against it. But I'm going to spend a little bit of time looking into it. If you want to know more about that one, check that one out. And as I say, last week's show was 10 thoughts on social media. I think it was anyway. And I think that's a good episode. So go check that one out as well, if you've got a little bit of free time in this holiday season. Before I go, though, I want to say that I am seeking sponsors for the first 6 episodes of next year. Actually, at the time of recording, I think I've got one, definitely got one, possibly got 2. And if you're already, so it's maybe only 4, but every episode I look for a sponsor. So if you're interested in any future sponsorships, please drop me a line. It's £15 to sponsor a show, and for that, you will get, this episode is sponsored by, and insert up to 10 words, either your business name or your own name at the top of the show, and you'll get your links put in the show notes for perpetuity, for the length of the show's life. That will always be there. So please get in touch if you want to help out in that way. And all monies raised at the moment are going into Google ads. So will that help? I have no idea. I'm going to do a show all about it somewhere down the line. So in fact, I'm tempted, let me know what you think of this, I'm tempted to do a whole season which is just about marketing, because I keep coming back to that thing that I've said before, where a baker bakes a cake, makes a beautiful cake, it looks good, smells good, tastes good, but the cake is not the baker's business. The baker's business is selling that cake, and that's marketing, and that's business, and all that we are doing creatively is almost worth nothing if we can't get it out there and reach an audience. So let me know if you think it would be of interest to you for me to do a season where perhaps I'm doing 6 interviews throughout that season and 6 kind of standard small shows with people that could help us to understand how to market our creative endeavors. That's just coming off the top of my head. If you're interested, drop me a line. But thanks again for joining me here today. I really do appreciate the time that you take out of your busy schedule to check in and listen to this show. I really do appreciate it. Thanks for joining me again. But I'll end today with some words from Zig Ziglar, who said, and I'm absolutely certain I've used this quote before on this topic, he said, "Don't let negative and toxic people rent space in your head. Raise the rent and kick them out." Now take control of your own destiny, keep on shooting, and join me next time on Film Pro Productivity and Success. The music that you can hear right now is Adventures by Ehimitsu, and the executive producer of this season is Christopher McPhillips from Artos Digital. You can view the show notes for this episode on the official website, filmproproductivity.com, or you can follow my social media. Why don't you try following at Film Pro Productivity on Facebook or at Film Pro ProdPod on Twitter. Please continue to support the show, folks, by subscribing, spreading the word, and leaving an awesome review. See you next week.